Hello, this is a video meant to be a demonstration walking you through what EmpowerDB is and how it works. This is not meant to be a training video. We do have one of those videos. A link to that video is, you should see that on the top right of your screen right now. This is more to see if this is the database meant for you. So let's get to it. We always start on the home page here because it's important for you to know that everything you're about to see you can go off and do yourself. So we would go to the home page and we would click on demo. It would take us to the screen where it's going to let us know, and I'll tell you too, that everything you're about to see on this demo site is just an example of how something could be set up. This is not your starting point. This is not how we recommend you set things up. It's just an example. Every single drop-down item and list and question can be tailored and will be tailored to what your organization needs. So let's go take a look. View demo. All right, the first screen that we see here is asking us to create an access point. And so this is going to be something pretty unique to EmpowerDB. Let's click here for now. So what this is doing is this is making it so that your site's unique encryption key is saved onto your computer. So every organization that uses the database has their own encryption key. Their data is stored on our server and it's encrypted using that key. But unlike any other system, the encryption key is only saved on your machines. It's not on our servers, which means we can't even view your data. We can't turn your data over in court order. Data breaches become essentially a non-issue. It's really pretty much the only safe way to store information on the cloud is a setup where the data is encrypted somewhere else and only you have the key. So in order for that all system to happen, we need to have some way to get that key saved onto your computer. And that's what this process is doing. So there's two different ways that you'll be able to do this. You can first, the one way is to say I'm a database administrator, and then you can just type in the encryption key yourself. And so it'll be a 16-character jumble up mess of characters and numbers. So you could type that in and your encryption key is now saved on your computer. The other thing that you can do is you can say send an approval request to a database administrator, and now it's going to ask you a few questions like, okay, what kind of computer do you have, what's your name, and now we can submit a request to an administrator to have our computer approved to use the database. An administrator would go onto their version of the database, they're already able to log in, and they would see the request on their homepage. They would click yes, I approve, and the encryption key magically and securely goes from their computer to my computer, and I am now approved to use the database, and the encryption key is on my computer. So it is an extra process that you're going to have to go through for every computer that's going to be using the database. It's something you only have to do once per computer, and you can do for as many computers as you want. But again, it's really the key thing that protects your data, and it gives you one extra step to make sure that there's something else giving somebody access to your system besides a username and password. Any system where all it takes is a username and a password to gain access to it is an insecure system. Passwords have a million faults to them. It's just so easy to get a hold of that. So you need this another extra step in order to make it so that it takes more than just a password to get in. Okay, so here we are on the demo site, and it's unique in that we can just click this, take a shortcut, and create the access point for me. I don't care about doing all this access point stuff right now. So if you're trying this yourself, feel free to click this button to bypass this whole screen, or you can click here and you can see what it would normally be. So let's just bypass this now, and now we can log in. Okay, so let's log in, username and password, demo. All right, logging in. So I'll now describe some of the things that we see on this home page. First and foremost, right in the middle is adding client activities. This is right on the home page because this is data that your staff is going to be entering a lot of information on. Especially in shelter settings where the people in the shelter are pretty consistent, but you're just seeing them all the time, and you want to be able to really quickly come in and say, okay, I saw Amanda today, and go type in her name and say what we did with her, So we can click this drop-down list of what services we did with her. Again, this list is just an example. We tailor this list to be exactly what you want and match what your funders need you to have. So maybe we would do education advocacy for half an hour. We have the option of having 2 different time drop-downs. So we say direct time is working directly with the client, collateral is working on their behalf. You can rename these. You can just have 1 drop down. You can have 0 drop downs, whatever you need there. So maybe we did some education advocacy with them for half an hour and then called the school on their behalf a quarter of an hour after that. Let's say we did something more in that one session. We can click this plus button. So you'll see these plus and minus buttons all throughout the system. And maybe we can say we did some housing advocacy with them for half an hour. Okay, optionally we can say what setting this was done in. If you don't care about where something was done, or if it was done over the phone or in face-to-face, then you wouldn't have this extra row. So we can say, okay, this was done at the main office. So this is putting in services done with this client. Anything where we're tracking the time spent doing something with one person. The next section here is tracking referrals. So we can say I referred this person to a hospital medical, and we can type in what it was. We can, just like the services, we can put in as many of these referrals as we would like. Let's do another DB agency. Okay, the next option that not everybody has, but if you would like it, it's there for you. We can say I gave them a resource. So something that either has a value, like a grocery card worth $40, or we can say we gave them something of a certain amount of quantity, so maybe 4 food items, and you can set it so that an option in this list will give you the option of selecting the quantity and the value. Next thing that, again, not everybody has is tracking milestones. So if you want to be able to say, record certain events that happened in a client's life that you weren't necessarily doing with them. If it was doing with them, it would be up here in the services section. But milestone would be they opened a bank account and we want to record that happened on Friday. The next thing we can say is a to-do item, and our to-do list is up here on the home page. So this is really just for people who like having a to-do list in a database. If you like having a to-do list in your planner or post-it notes, go ahead and do that. But if you like having it in the database, here you go. This is keeping track of all of our things we need to do. We can add in another item to do, and let's say we want to do this by Thursday. Other thing that you can have here is if you would like to keep track of appointments in the system, you can say I am seeing this person for counseling on next Monday at 3 p.m. And finally, some notes about the session. So whatever you feel like is appropriate to put in for notes, you can add that here. Now I've added in a service referral, every single one of these things. You don't have to add in every single one of these things. You can just do a service, you can just do notes, any combination of these items can be added here. So let's add it, submit, and they get added in. So here we get this little readout of all the things that we just added in. We can make a deletion here if we want to fix something. Say, oh, oops, I didn't actually refer them to police. That was a mistake. We can delete that. All right, so this was adding in time for an individual client. We can instead add in time for a group. And we can select one of our groups from this list. It's very easy for you to add in your own items to these drop-down lists. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So maybe we want to say we did a support group, and that group lasted an hour and a half. Maybe I had a half an hour of prep time, and now I would go through and put in all the people that were attending to the group. Now let's say you're running a group and it's pretty much the same people coming every week. plus or minus a few people. You could say copy from past entry. It's going to open up a list and show you, okay, this was pretty much the same as the educational group you did last week. Say, yep, let's copy those names. But Patty wasn't there, and Elizabeth wasn't there, but Amanda was. And now you would put in some notes about the entire group. And this gets saved on everybody's record. So let's say Amanda disclosed something really personal and you want to record what it was. You wouldn't add that into these notes here because it would show up on everybody's record. If you wanted to add in something specific for Amanda, you'd have to go back to the individual client section and add in a specific note just for her. Okay, so we can submit this, and that's our group. It's added in. And the last category here is events. And we can change the name of this to be whatever is most appropriate for you. But this is meant to be just kind of a catch-all of anything that we couldn't record over in these sections. So that's typically things that are not involving working with clients. So maybe we did a DB training, and it was called DB 101, and there were 20 people there. All of them were new. Again, these are just example fields. You can have it be whatever you want it to be. So maybe 10 were this age, 10 were that age. Okay. And we can put in some notes about the session. Okay, so we're adding in all these different types of activities. Where are they going? How do I see what I've just added in? On the top left of every page is this calendar icon. And I can click here, and I can view a calendar view of everything that we've been putting in. So here's September 12th, the day I'm putting all these things in, and we can see I did work with Amanda, I had a support group, and I did a DB training. I can mouse over one of these items, and it gives me more details about what this was. I can click this pencil icon, and it opens up a edit window for me to go in here and change some things. So maybe we realize that we actually did an hour of education advocacy. Fix that, edit it, and now this gets updated here. All right, we can also turn this into an outline mode. And now, just as you expect, it's more of a list of all the things that we did. And right now, this is showing us everything that we've done with all of our clients. But let's say we only wanted to see the things that we've done with a particular client. So we can click on that client filter up there, type in a client name. Now this is everything that we've done involving Amanda. Let's say we don't want to limit it just to ourselves. Let's see what Amanda's done throughout the whole organization. We can click on the staff filter and remove this, and now we can see that other staff have done support group with Amanda or services or whatnot with that client too. There's an easier way to get to the screen where we're just seeing one particular client's list of things that they've done, and I'll show you that later. The default that we set people up with is that everybody, if you can see the client, you can see everything about them. Their data, their notes, but that doesn't obviously work for everybody. So we work with everybody to understand what kind of permission settings they need to have happen, and we program the database in and make sure that the administrators know how to make it so that maybe your legal staff's notes or services can only be seen by that individual person or that department. Any kind of iteration of who should be able to see what it can be done. We just need to talk through what that should be. Okay, let's go back to the home page. And now that we've seen about adding in client activities, we can scroll down and see this section here. So since we're a database administrator, we can see every single user that's added in the system, and we can see the number of hours worth of activities that they've inputted into the system each month. And make no bones about it, this is for administrators to be checking up on their staff to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in the database. So if we see, every month, 16, okay, good, 12, they lost a little bit of steam, oh no, they're really, starting to lose focus on the database here, we can go and we can have a little conversation with the staff member and get them to start putting in their time in the system. We can click on a number here and get taken to that staff's calendar for June, so we can kind of review exactly what they were doing. A database user who is not an administrator will just see their own row, so it's kind of an indication of, hey, this is what your administrator is seeing. And you can set any user to be able to say, you know, let's say demo user shouldn't be an administrator, but they're supervising intern Megan. So you can make it so that demo user can see just intern Megan's row. All right, next section here on the home page is date reminders. So this is showing us that we had a counseling appointment with Shelly just a few days ago, and we haven't yet gone in and added a service to say how that ended up being, whether it actually happened, and you know, putting in information about that. And it's letting us know that we have an appointment in a few days with Amanda. It's letting us know that we have some clients that we've worked with who are or are in the shelter who have birthdays coming up. And then this last one here is just an example of just some other kind of date reminder that we can program into the system. So if the database knows some sort of date, and it's appropriate to have that date show up here in this date reminders, then we can program in a custom reminder for you. That is something that we do have to program in special for you, but it's not something that takes a lot of time. It's just everybody has such completely different needs that we haven't found, you know, one consistent tool that you can drag and drop and build something. So it's just a few lines of code for us to add in something like, you know, a reminder to fill in a follow-up of things, or restraining orders expiring soon, or court dates coming up, or homicide anniversaries, things like that. Here's a pretty pointless thing. It knows your office location potentially. You can put in driving directions and it'll open up in Google, will take you there. Also on the home page here, every time you come to the system, there's a different inspirational quote. So that's really nice. You can click on this compliment me button and get a random daily compliment. You can mouse over your logged in as name up here, and you can change your background color to anything you want. You can put in some background patterns. And all of these things are really meant to just make it so that staff, you know, feel more connected to the database, which sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but really experience that this is something that happens, and that the more comfort and the happier they are using the database, the better the data that gets put into the database is. All right, next section as we're scrolling up here, data completion reminders. The system knows that we've worked with these clients and we do not yet have 100% of the information that we need to have filled in for them. So it's reminding us of those here, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. Here's our to-do list. So we had that in from before, and we just put in this thing for Amanda. So let's say we've now done this item on our list. We can check that off, and the next time we come to this page, that item is gone. Here's some links section up here that we'll talk about in a moment. Program lists. So we organize your the type of services you provide into different programs. So like the major types of clients that you serve, and that's usually takes some working out what it's going to be. The word program, everybody has their own idea what that means. So we definitely walk you through what makes sense for this in terms of setting up an EmpowerDB. Again, this list will be completely customized for you. And now we have add new entry, and let's give this a shot now. So all these activities that we were putting in before, those are activities for people that are already in the database. So let's add in a whole brand new person. So let's say, okay, add a client. Now it wants to know what program we want to put this person into. So let's say community program. And now it knows to ask the specific community program information. And let's just first type in a name that's slightly similar to the Amanda that we entered in before. So here the system has said, all right, there's somebody in the database that has a very similar name to this. Are you sure you want to continue adding in this Amanda? And we can click on that Amanda, we can view her record, and we can say, oh yeah, same exact phone number, same birth date and address. I'm not going to continue adding in that other client. Maybe you would review this and you would say, oh, nope, this is not at all the same person, just a coincidence with their name. All right, so let's bring in somebody completely new. So Becca Tremont, great. No existing entries, we can continue. All right, some fields here we can fill in. So I'll just kind of talk about the unique things here that you might see in EmpowerDB. So since our people we work with are very interested in having not just multiple phone numbers for a particular client, but the ability to say that this phone number is safe to call and safe to leave a message are there. You can set up whatever safe to things that you want. We can say, oh, we also know another safe contact, and we can say we know Linda's phone number, and Linda is the mother. Okay, so you can add in as many phone numbers as you want there. Exact birth date or estimate age. So this is a pretty unique thing. So if we know somebody's exact birth date, we can just type it in here. We can say, okay, that's their birth date, and now the database will always know how old they are. So it's telling us this person is 33 years old. And whenever we go run a report, every funder has their own breakdowns for age range categories. So if that funder wants to know how many people between 30 and 40 you served this month, then it'll know that this person should be included. Let's say we don't know somebody's exact birth date. We can estimate their age. Well, first of all, we can just say, I have zero clue how old they are, age unknown. Or we can say, I think they're about 32. And again, every year here is listed because of every funder having a different age range breakdown. And we need to, just do your best to guess somewhere in seems appropriate for an age. And then that will make it so that, again, when we run a report, this is how many people between 30 and 40 did we serve this year, this person will come up. If we were to come check this record a couple years later, it would say that they are 34 years old. So the estimate does age over time. All right, next section here is kind of a unique section. It's kind of wrapped inside of this gray box here. And what this is anytime where there's a situation where your information about a client could change over time, and you want to be able to have a really good record of what it used to be, or there can be another occurrence of something, like incidents, abuse, cases of abuse. Maybe somebody told you about domestic violence one day, and you want to record that, and then they come in a few months later and they've told you about a case of sexual assault. You want to be able to press a button and get a whole new set of inputs to say how the new situation was recorded. So let's do an example here. So maybe when they came to us originally, they lived in Boston, and we can enter that in, and we can type all that in. But let's say later on they come back and they say that they've moved. So instead of going here and changing this to be Cambridge, maybe they've moved to Cambridge, we would instead say include additional location. Type in the name of the city. The system knows every city in the country, and type in the address there. Okay, so now that we have these two entries added in, it's going to be able to organize these by date. Now, this is a pretty unlikely situation that we would put these both in immediately, so it's going to organize them both by today's date, but otherwise it would organize this one by the date that this was entered in, and this one by maybe a month later when that was entered in. Okay, so this same practice happens throughout the database, and you'll see this a lot. All right, let's do another thing here. Children, we can say this person has 2 children, and now we get some fields to enter in some information about them. And because we're adding in a brand new client, we have the opportunity to put in some services that we've done with them. So we can say maybe we did some, just down off the screen here, safety planning for an hour because they just came in and it was in the main office. All right, maybe some notes about that, what that was. All right, add a new client. Here is Becca. This is her record. We can be anywhere else in the database. Let's go back to the home page, and we can go up here and type in her name, and she's in our list of recent clients, and go look her up, and here is her record. All right, so whenever we go look up a client, we're just seeing her basic information. So just the stuff that you have decided whenever somebody's looking them up, that's what we want them to see. So usually their contact information, what programs within your organization they're in, and the information about their children. you, like anything else in the database, can control what information goes here, and like everything else, we work with you to set it up for you initially, and then in the future you're able to modify it if you'd like. Okay, so what if we want to see more than just this basic stuff? On the right here is our expanded information. So we can click here to see our community intake page. Again, you potentially have different intake pages for all of your different programs. We click there and we can see all the questions that are specific to this community intake. I'll note here why some of these questions are highlighted in yellow. These are the ones that the system is reminding us that the organization has decided we want you to fill this in. Usually this is because it's on a funder report. Funder is going to be asking for this. Please fill this in right away. And once we answer that, that question is no longer highlighted in yellow. Also notice on the right here, data completion. It's letting us know, okay, we're 66% of the way there. We have one more question to do, one missing. If we were somewhere else random on the page, we could have clicked one missing, and it's going to take us right to what's missing. And now we can fill this in. Right? And now that's all complete. You'll see a lot of times where you'll answer in one question, and now it says, okay, well, you've answered that, but now here's this other question that we need to have filled in that's specific to what happens when you answered it this way. And those kinds of settings are really easy for you to set up and control if you'd like to. All right, here's an example of the incident of users. I won't go too far into this again, but let's say domestic violence. They told us about that today. This one, we can control the dates of these entries. And we can say, okay, and now they've told us, a week later about the case of sexual assault. All right. And restraining orders, maybe somebody has multiple restraining orders that they saw on this date, and then another one, and then another one. Really, again, just examples of what you could do. Save changes, there we go. We can go back to Becca's record here, and we can do more things. This view activities outline, this is the link where we can go to see that list of all the things that we've done with her. All right, so that's putting in information about a client. Let's go, there's probably a lot more to talk about here, but let's go look at a report, since you're probably wondering about that now. So back on the home page, we can click on reports, and there's 3 different types of reports in the database. The first type that I'll talk about is custom/funder reports. Let's say you are funded by VOCA, so you would see this item in your list, and we would come here and we would say, I want to run the report for April to June of 2017. And now the database knows, exactly how you count clients as VOCA clients. Everybody we work with has a slightly different way of doing it, and we program the report to do things by your way. You are not stuck with any kind of pre-built way that we force you into designated client as VOCA or not. We've pretty much seen it all at this point as far as how organizations will divvy things up. So it says, okay, 3 people were new, 12 were ongoing. It's letting us know that there's only 83% of VOCA required information filled out for this client. So we need to go fill this in and say save changes, and now we're getting better here. And now everybody there is 100%. We would want to go through and do the rest of these. It's also letting us know this person was served 7 times, had 7 services, 2 referrals. We can click on this number and see what that is. Again, this is all kind of a review to make sure that this information all works in kind of the same, is what you would expect. So maybe this client would say, hey, how come there's no services here? Somebody forgot to put something in. I'm showing you the VOCA report now, but every report we build has the same kind of structure to it, where it's going to preview the clients, it's going to give you a chance to review some things, and then when you scroll down, it's going to give you all the numbers that completely processed for the way that the funder asks for it. So we say, okay, we served a total of 15 people. With all the reports, you can click on the number and you can see which people make up that number. And again, all the demographics, it's all filled in exactly towards the way that you would be doing this normally you're not stuck with any one way of doing it. And we always write on the right side there, somewhere close to the question, how the system is going about pulling that information, so that you can review, how it's doing it, or if we've got it set up the way that you want it to be doing, and so forth. Okay, direct services. So this is a particularly challenging thing for VOCA and many other funders, where individual advocacy, that's a good example. So many different things encompass individual advocacy. So 19 different times we did that. We can click on that, what that it was. The system knows, okay, we did medical advocacy with this client on that date, police advocacy on that client on that date. And what's happening here is I can go and take a look at the administrative section, and I can say, okay, look at our service types, and the system is set that every time that we do housing advocacy, that's counting on the VOCA report for B4 individual advocacy, and it's counting on the STOP report for victim survivor advocacy. So whatever funders you have here, you'll usually have some sort of conversion option here where you can set this, and from that point on, the system knows how to map the work that you do with the wording that makes sense to your organization and gives you the data that you need internally, but can filter that all into just one place for this VOCA report, so you don't really have to think about it. Just all goes through, and all you have to do is click that number and review. Okay, so that's the VOCA report, and again, I won't go over all these reports. If you're really interested, you should log into the demo and poke around with some of these yourself. But again, they're all structured pretty similarly. I can also click on variable query here, which is the most common of what's called the built-in reports. So these are reports that just, if you have a simple question, we want to be able to have you get a really clear answer without a lot of fuss really quickly. So variable query is a typical way to do this, where maybe we want to say, what was the primary race and what was the education of people served in the community program from the beginning of the year until now. Run report. Okay, and here's the results. Note that we've got 2 people unanswered. We can see who that is. We go, oh, I know Brett's primary race. We'll select that like that, and now that gets updated. Okay, and all these reports can be exported to spreadsheet. This opens up in Excel, and you can make all the pie charts you need and do all the fancy things with this. There's a lot more to get into with reports. On the top right of the screen right now should be a link to a instructional video on how to run the variable query reports, and that will give you a better idea of all the things that you can do in this specific reporting tool. The other common reporting tool is these activities reports. So let's do services, and let's say show me all the services that I provided during this date to all programs. Let's just do it. Run report. It's broken down by, like, we served 13 clients during this time, the number of hours, the number of sessions. We did 9 different things. And maybe we want to say, I only want to see the counseling that was done during this time. And now 10 clients received counseling during this time for a total of this and this and that. Again, there's a little bit more that we can do here, and now you should be seeing on the top right a link to another video that explains this specific reporting function too. The last type of report that we can do here is all-in-one report, and this is for if you've got a question that's just a little bit too crazy of a logic statement, that what can be done on these more simple reports. So here's where you come in, you can kind of build something out, and you say, okay, I want to see where this and that equals, let's just, where gender equals female and race equals white. Now here's our results, and now we want to add in, and see what cities they lived in, and we can group by this, and we can see, okay, let's count by the number of these people. So it gets a little bit more complicated to do this report, but sometimes you just need a tool like this in order to get the more specific question that you're looking for. And again, we have a training video, and on the top right you should see a link to how this works if you are more curious about what can be done here. Okay, so that's reporting in the database. The last thing I want to show you is these alternate programs. So we have information we can add in for clients. So we can add in a client to the shelter, add in a client to the community program. We can also add in just unassociated form data. So a survey that's just not linked to anybody, we want to be able to say put in a survey data. Or maybe you want to decide that hotline callers for you are not clients, they are just some form data that you want to have as separate information that's not linked to anything. So we could set that up like that. So we can add a new entry up here. Let's just add in one of these hotline forms. And now this is just a pretty simple form. Date of call, time spent on call. Again, just an example. Maybe they were seeking shelter and they're calling for counseling. All right, so add that in. And now that's our entry. And just like any other data in the system, we can run a report that says, how many hotline callers did we get in the month of September? It'll show us a list. Maybe it'll total up the time spent. If we need to get that information, we give us counts. All the data that you need about your hotline information can be garnered from there. And the other great thing about this is we give you, it's possible to set up these forms to be filled in by people who are not logged into your database. So I've gone to a special URL that you can set up for each form. Set this up on your own. And this is the same exact form, but we can, like I said, enter it in even though we're not logged in and we don't have that access point and encryption key saved onto our computer. The catch here is once we add in data, we can't view it again. It's encrypted with your site's encryption key, and we can't see it again. If we want to see it, we have to log in. In most cases, that's actually great. That's what we want. We don't want somebody to be able to view data without being logged in, obviously. So we can submit this, and custom message comes up there, whatever you want that to say. And now when we go back to our hotline calls, we see here's this hotline call that we just added in. Okay, so that's a feature that can be used for hotline calls. Maybe you have volunteers that you want to be on your hotline, and then this sample survey can be used. This survey functionality can be used if you want to give clients links to surveys. They could fill it out on their own. They could fill it out. You can have a tablet or a computer set up in your lobby where people can fill things in. Clients can potentially do their initial intake on their own on those computers through this form like this, and you don't have to risk that they're going to poke around and see other things in the database that they shouldn't see, because they can only add data into the database. All right. I'm going to call this video quits right now. We're coming up on 40 minutes, so I don't want to go much longer. You can think of a dozen other things that I can talk to you about, but I'd really encourage you to, if you have more questions, just get in touch with us. We'd be glad to do a demonstration like this specific for your organization, for the things that you are really curious about seeing. I moused over on this program list. I saw shelter. There's all kinds of great things that we've got in here for organizing clients in your shelter that I didn't get to. So please just feel free to reach out if you'd like some more information, or to see have us show you some more specific parts of the system. All right. Thank you so much for watching.